Hello, everybody. It's Louisa Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and I'm here with the gorgeous, the most wonderful, the utterly beautiful TC Aeelah. Did I pronounce it right this time?
Yes.
Woohoo! Also known as Tanya Castillo. If you know her as Tanya, you know her as Tanya. I will be referring to her as Tanya rather than TC, if that's okay with you, Tanya. But that is obviously your author name that loads of people will know you by.
That's it.
Yes.
That's why I share it like that.
So let's invite people to join us in the chat room today. If you would like to let us know where you're listening from, who you are, and what do you do at the time of solstices? Do you have a particular routine that you do that has some kind of meaning for you? Because today we're going to be talking about the solstice, aren't we, Tanya, and the wisdom of it.
So what do you, very dearest goddess, wise Louisa, have to share about the solstice this June 2021? Tell us about it.
I am literally just bringing up the chart right now.
Great. So it's fresh from the press.
It's absolutely fresh from the press. I won't bring it onto the screen because I just think it would be a bit too fiddly. But I will talk to you around some of the themes because we've also got a lot of things going on. So let me just bring this chart up. So at the moment of the solstice, I always look at where the moon is because that really gives us a feel for what's going on. So solstice marks the moment that the sun goes into the sign of Cancer, and so all of the themes of Cancer is really like fresh in our minds. So like Cancerian, the sign of Cancer is the fourth sign of the zodiac, and the fourth, the number 4 is related to the family and the stability and the behaviors, and also how we can feel secure. The sign of Cancer is also ruled by the moon, so that's about our emotions, but it's also about the maternal and the mother-child relationship, and in this particular solstice, the moon is in the sign of Scorpio. And it is also in a conjunction with something known as the vertex. Now, the vertex is a point in the chart that describes what the universe is kind of wanting for us to get involved in. And I always find it really useful in a chart because it always describes what my clients are meant to be doing in their lives. You know, it's one of those things. You know how, like, when you grow up, Tanya, you have this idea of what you wanted to be. People say, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a doctor, or probably something wild and wacky. I don't know. What did you want to be? I think I wanted to be
I went through different phases. A hairdresser, fashion designer, a teacher. I already wanted to be a teacher when I was a kid. So many different things.
Yeah, I wanted to be a makeup artist for film, which I thought.
Whoa, that was exciting.
Yeah, I not did anything like that. But the vertex in a chart shows what the universe wants us to do. So often we find in our life we are continuously moving towards what we think we need to be doing, and each time the universe is nudging us back. So no doubt, Tanya, when you were trying to be a hairdresser or something, the universe was trying to nudge you into teaching roles all the way through.
Yeah.
So anyway, in this solstice chart, we have got the moon in a conjunction with it. So it's saying that the universe is wanting us to go into a phase of reflection, a phase of recognizing the feminine, and a time of deep inquiry, which is, these are Scorpio themes. Another Scorpio theme is deep transformation. So this is really encouraging us to dig deep, and that's just looking at the sun and the moon, but they're in a beautiful, really lovely lineup with Jupiter, and Jupiter is, the largest planet. It's also seen as almost like a surrogate sun. It carries a lot of weight and a lot of importance. It's kind of self-important, so it's really encouraging us as humans to go into a phase of mastery and to balance our ego with our emotions, and also our highest aspect represented by expansive Jupiter. So that's just a quick snapshot of a rushed snapshot as well of this week's solstice, which is happening on the 21st of June at 32 minutes past 4 in the morning. That's local time to us in Lisbon and in London. And we've got a few people joining us today. We've got
Hello, Joanna. Yeah.
Hello, Masters. Hi, Joanna. How are you?
Hello.
We've also got Gregor, who's joined us once again. I can never remember where Gregor is from.
Slovenia.
So let's see how many countries we hit today. It could be a bit like the Eurovision, which we just had. I wonder if Italy will show up. But so what's your understanding of the solstice? How does the solstice?
Well, so what I'm seeing out there with people that I work with is that people are really coming to the realization that toiling along just as a human is really not producing great results. And that people are being brought to their knees, literally, in a sense that they're just becoming humbled by the sheer weight of how hard it gets when they really do not want to listen to their higher wisdom, to their higher self, to their expanded isness. And so people are being faced with their darkest dark side, the darkest of the dark. Just because in order to come into full alignment, where human and divine are one, so where the human doesn't perceive him or herself as being unworthy, as being a lesser god, and realizes that there is no such thing. So for that to happen, there cannot be a polarization, and there cannot be some part that is so separate, so hidden, that the nagging lack of love never goes away.
Yeah.
And that nagging emptiness, that nagging something missing is in the darkest dark recesses of human existence. And until each one of us is humbled enough by how painful that separation is, how painful it is to pretend that it's not there.
Yeah.
Until each one of us, and I repeat, until each one of us has the courage to love more.
Yeah.
To come into complete compassion. So therefore, without that polarization, trying to get something that is terribly horrible, etc., out of the way and invisible. Until each one of us does that, it simply will not be possible to live in balance and peace and all of those things people say they want at a massive scale.
Yeah.
But then again, and I've also been very aware of this coming up to this solstice. And because the solstice is basically like a time of ascension of consciousness.
Yeah.
The earth itself is ascending anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
It's just the humans living on Earth that have to figure out whether they want to say yes or come back for more rounds.
Yeah.
Because the Earth itself, which is also, and a planet is an entity, is actually a very evolved consciousness. So the evolved consciousness that Earth is definitely ascending to higher dimensions of consciousness. That's why everyone living on Earth has been brought to their knees. Now, some need to crawl for longer.
Yeah.
Others are willing to say, I surrender.
Yeah.
Show me the way. So this is the theme for this solstice, for this ascension period, in which it's not just for a few or for the special, unique ones or the chosen ones. There are no chosen ones. We are all God also. There are no ones that were chosen to be God.
Yeah.
We are all that.
Yes.
And God can only be here when we realize that we are that.
Yes. I totally resonate with what you're saying there.
So it's like, it's sort of what was depicted in the last sort of how do you call them, the in the Bible, the doomsday, or the final evaluation. It's not like there's someone out there trying to point out, this is good and that is bad, and you were bad and you were good, and you deserve paradise and you deserve hell, etc., etc. No, it's of course none of that. This is a whole metaphor of what is going on right now. We are at the end of days, as in described in the Bible, but not because it's that kind of doomsday thing. That's just the human mind trying to figure out stuff that it can't comprehend. It's the opportunity, it's the gift. It's really one of the greatest gifts that humanity as a whole has ever had, right here on a golden platter. That is this summer solstice.
Wow, my astrology doesn't seem to encapsulate that enough, does it?
It's like, it's serious business. It's really a responsible thing for everyone to take responsibility to be God also. And being God also is not going around and sort of being overpowering over everyone and etc. That's completely not the case.
Yeah.
It's being in such a state of love and acceptance that the darkest of the dark in each single human is finally accepted and can merge and dissolve. Yeah. And only when that happens can we see in the world around us something completely different, something completely new.
This resonates on so many levels. Firstly, in all the conversations I've been having with so many people over these last few weeks, such a strong message coming out from all of these people that this is a time of embodiment, and embodying as much of this light as we can, or strengthening our connection to light. Then this morning I was having a conversation with my good friend Rick, and it was literally about separation. And the darkness of it and the gift of it, and all of those things that you just mentioned, it just resonates. And somebody in a thread last night, I noticed, was talking about the emergence not of light workers but of dark workers, and not to say that there's a dark force necessarily, but there are people there are people that just spread light and say, oh, it's all good, all good, and that's all we need to know. But he's actually saying there's an emergence of people who are holding the dark.
I'm one of those sort of, you could say, dark workers, in the sense that I am here to help people realize there is no light and dark as in separate things.
Mm.
That you're holding such a space of compassion and non-judgment that all of the darkness can simply
Yes.
disappear. Not disappear as if it never existed, as if it's just unworthy of being here. Completely the opposite. Disappear as something separate. But all of the treasure of the experience lived in the darkness, as it merges, is brought back home. And that is rich. Really, actually, people don't realize that a great part of their creative genius, of their materialization power, etc., lies in the dark side. Just because it's been kept out of sight so that we could pretend to be smaller and pretend to be bigger. So in this sort of always kind of, polarity, comparing. So now I pretend to be more powerful, but in doing that, I feel weaker. And then I pretend to be weaker. And in doing that, I don't believe I have the power. And so this game, the game of duality that has been creating the separation, has put all of the materialization capacity, the actual essence of creativity, in the dark. So that's why many times people don't manage to materialize their lives in abundance and joy and love and serenity and all of these beautiful things, because it's stuck in the darkness.
And they won't go there. Is that the point?
Exactly. And they won't go there because they're too scared, because they think it's something outside there that is just gonna, come and eat and gobble them up.
Yeah. I am really grateful for the sort of like proverbial dark night of the soul. And 2 times, well, mainly one time where I just thought, that's it. I kind of wanted to destroy myself. Not even by killing myself. I didn't even want to give myself the release of that. I wanted to torture myself and to really feel it. And I was like, yeah, come on, bring it on. And it was immediately, literally a few days before I met my husband.
Wow.
I'm very grateful for those moments where you just absolutely release everything. And it is I don't know, it's a moment of yielding, isn't it? It's a moment of saying, okay, I can't cope with this anymore. I just have to accept that this is who I am, and I might not like it, but this is who I am. This is my reality, and it's all mine. And kind of, kind of like accepting it, surrendering to it. It wasn't a very graceful surrender, to be fair, but I did get there a little bit. And I'm sure there are many more dark nights of the soul to come, or other surrender points, but I'm very grateful for how they've happened. We should pay a bit of attention to our lovely audience, because we've had lots of lovely messages. So Matea, Melina, hello from Vienna. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
And then we got is it
hugs from Slovenia? Tjasha.
Tjasha from Slovenia. Welcome. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you.
And Joanna's got a comment. She's saying, when we do not surrender, it is more painful. Yes, I surrender to my soul. I totally agree. I was just on a call with Helder, who's a speaker at the Higher Self Expo, and he was talking about the surrendering and how we can surrender to Earth. And one of the things that really struck me is that right now people are wanting to hold on to situations, like hold on to it like it's life or death, and energy to keep that situation in the same
is huge.
It's huge. And also in nature doesn't hold itself still. The only time you see anything still in nature is when it's dead, because the life has gone out of it. But
and even then, it goes to the earth and transmutes into something else.
Exactly. So like when we're holding on to things, we're kind of encouraging death.
So true. So true. So true.
So Jasha has shared with us, integration of my darkest side feels so safe when being guided by Tanya. Grateful beyond.
Thank you so much, Tiasha, and thank you for allowing that. I've spoken about this with Tiasha, that it takes great courage to strip yourself bare and say, okay, I'm naked, I'm here, come.
Well, you're actually answering the next question. We've been joined by Ruth Jacob. Is Ruth somebody that you work with, Tanya?
Yeah.
Excellent, because I don't think she's joined us on one of our shows before, not in the chat room anyway. So hi, Ruth, welcome aboard. So she's saying, how do you get to that point of release? And she's also said, hi, Louisa and Tanya, how do you get to that point of release? So
you strip yourself bare.
Yeah.
You just stop pretending that you have a way of protecting yourself against anything inside of you. Whenever we feel the need to protect ourselves against something outside, that means that for sure we are trying to protect ourselves against something inside. Because at the point where something happened, we didn't have the ability to cope. So we created a protective layer. And we have been so good at creating protective layers that they have become armors, and they have become solid walls and solid rock. And it doesn't mean that we have to go with a chisel and chisel the rock bit by bit. It can be done much faster. But the point is, the human ego believes it knows everything about life on Earth. It's sort of like, there comes the soul with all of these nice things telling me this is not so hard, and so on and so forth. I know much better. I mean, I've been here for a long time. So, that human idea that we know about stuff, that we know about stuff on Earth is such a game. And it just gets us going around in circles, around the same thing over and over again, trying to figure out how do I get myself out of this. So we get ourselves stuck, and then stay stuck by trying to figure out how to get unstuck from the stuck point of view. I mean, how can that happen? It's not possible. So the thing is, step out of the stuckness into your serene, safe space inside. And from that point of view, then you're bare, you're stripped. I mean, you don't have an armor when you're in that space inside of you. You're just vulnerable, available. But without being available, and that's the whole conundrum I feel that people run into, is that in order to be able to have that release, that shift, you have to expose yourself. And being exposed is the big issue. Yeah. Because of course, you can't expose yourself just to this. Mm-hmm. Either you are exposed or you're not exposed. Either you are vulnerable or you're not vulnerable. Either you trust or you don't trust. I mean, there's no sort of in between. It's just all or nothing. When it comes to completely surrendering to that integration, to that allowing, it's all or nothing. There's no just, I'm dipping my foot a little bit to see if the water's nice enough. No, you have to dive. Even if you think you don't know how to swim. Because only after you dive will you realize that the water will hold you. Which is your soul.
I love that so much. And I hope that answers your question, Ruth. What I was thinking about today was how I've created separation in myself. And all those things that Tanya just mentioned are absolutely true. You know, I realized that any separation in myself that came up was because I didn't feel safe. I didn't trust that I could do it myself. I didn't trust that it was okay for me to be vulnerable. And I developed a real strong habit of independence, of doing everything myself, not asking for any help, because I didn't want to be vulnerable or have other people say, "What, you can't do that? What?" You know, and all sorts of different things. The voice in my head was just really crazy. And it was a real act of courage, actually, to allow my husband in. And I didn't realize, you know, I'd been in a relationship before for 11 years, moaning to myself because he didn't want to marry me, but or have children with me. But in fact, he didn't want those because I was so independent. Like my whole lack of trust that everything would happen in just the way it should or could. My lack of trust held him away. I didn't make myself vulnerable enough. And of course, I then attracted somebody who also wasn't very vulnerable. So I met my husband, who asked me to move in with him the same day. I had to think, oh my goodness, this is somebody who's absolutely going to reveal his vulnerability. This feels a bit dangerous. But one of the things that really helped me was, you know, the speaker, Brené Brown.
Yeah.
TED Talk.
Yeah, she's fabulous.
The one that she did on vulnerability.
Yeah.
Me to see that the people I knew who had found themselves in successful relationships were okay about the relationships going wrong. And, you know, they cried, you know, they were open about their pain. And I could never allow anyone to see my pain. And so things changed. So it's just my own little bit there. But
I also lived that kind of environment that you're talking about. Yeah, so very true.
It's hard because, like, if you don't feel very supported, or if you feel like ashamed that you're not perfect, it's difficult. So Ruth has said that was very helpful. Thank you, Tanya.
Great. Thank you, Ruth.
Description.
And thank you for bringing it up, because really it's something that many people feel challenged with. It's an ongoing challenge, so it's good to ask it and to be able to share about it.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
So we're into vulnerability at the moment, in the sense that with this solstice, which is the ascension opportunity, and ascension doesn't mean you're going to take off on a kind of light tube all the way up into the sky and disappear. Yeah, because I think many times also our images and beliefs about things keep us stuck in thinking that, oh, you know, I'm not ascending. And because we have a preconceived idea of what something means. And ascension is just shifting from one level of consciousness to another. So that in that case, we then access other dimensions of existence. That's all ascension is. It's not that much of a big deal. It is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? It's a simple thing.
Yes. Yes. And I'm speaking to so many people right now who have gone through their own ascension process. And
we're always ascending, really.
Yeah. And they're also very normal about it. You know, obviously they've had a process of integrating the energy, which brought up lots of different issues for them in different ways. But you are all very normal about it, you know.
And it is normal. It's just so normal, you know.
You know, and also kind of it's almost brought people back down to earth, if you know what I mean. So the people I you know, they've gone through this amazing altered experience, you know, where your perceptions, I would say from my perspective, your perspectives are altered, but in actual fact, I actually think your experiences and perceptions are true, because you see everything without the blinkers on.
Yeah.
And in that moment, all the people that I've spoken to that have been through that are not wanting to explore out here and go far and wide. They're wanting to explore more in here.
Yeah.
On the earth.
And to be here, really.
Yeah.
Because what I find and what I really know in my heart is that transcendence is not transcendence of this of duality, so of the experience of duality. Transcendence is not about the body is not a limitation. Actually, it's the other way around. It's our perception of what is a limitation. So transcendence becomes possible as we remove our ideas of what is a limitation. So the more we surrender to being here now in a physical body, in a human life, in the earthly realms, and embrace that more and more and more, and joyfully celebrate that more and more and more, and nurture the gratitude of the abundance of that more and more and more, the less we feel any kind of separation. And therefore, it's not about being out of the body or being able to travel to other galaxies or finding out about what other civilizations are doing or how they're doing it, because we chose to come and experience this transcendence as earthly beings. Otherwise we wouldn't have incarnated on earth, and in my case for so many lifetimes. I mean, many of us have been coming over and over again until the moment would come when we realized, oh, wait a minute, it's being here now that is the freedom.
Yeah.
Not seeking it somewhere else.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because one of the things that turned up this morning in our conversation was that another separation trick that we do is time. So the moment we're uncomfortable with something, we go into the future to try and solve it, which by the way, obviously I do as an astrologer. I'm always looking and also looking in the past to find out how it was caused.
The reasons.
Yeah. But actually, you know,
it can be helpful.
Yeah.
If you keep the perspective that you are only here now.
Yes. But like, there are so many ways that we can separate ourselves and distract ourselves. And I was marveling over the time one today. Present is a real gift.
The present is actually timeless. We can only experience timelessness, which is what we are. We are eternal beings, therefore we are timeless. We are not bound or limited by time and space. We, of course, need it to be able to have linear experiences within certain realms. Not within all realms, but within certain realms. And here on Earth, we need it in order to be able to make sense of the experiences here. But we only realize our boundlessness, our eternity, our timelessness, when we fully land here now. Because the now has no, it has no before or after. It just is.
Yeah.
So therefore, it has no boundaries. You see, it's fabulous to feel that, That's why the book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, was such a success. Because the people who, you know, we all sort of wanted to remember that. But every single one who collapses into the merge of human and divine is in that now. I mean, there's no other moment. Really, there is no other moment. It's the moment of isness. Everything else is happening all at the same time because we are timeless.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of the potentials are already there. It's just which point of consciousness we are tapping into potential materializations.
I love I love that.
Where are we? You know, if we're bound in the consequences that the past has brought about, then we are not timeless. If we are bound by the desires and expectations of a better future, we are not allowing ourselves to realize that it is here now, because we're always running after the carrot. You know, better days will come. Okay, I know, I understand that the human needs to tell, the human self needs to tell him or herself, you know, better days will come, better days will come. But what if you can really land in the bad days, which is really fully acknowledging the dark side? So then you go through that, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, the good day is right here now. Because I've embraced whatever is uncomfortable, whatever is feeling painful, whatever is not reflecting what I desire. That's why all of the masters across the ages have said, let go of your desires. You see, because the desire keeps one in a non-existing reality. And the desire can be lustful or something, or it can just be very simply wanting better days.
Yeah.
So it's not being fully here. If, okay, my day today is really, really SHIT, okay, whatever. Let me just be here and, okay, I'm breathing here, I'm staying here, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not afraid of it anymore. It's okay. Yeah. But of course, we have naturally that sense of unsafety when things are not, you know, when things are not feeling good. And that makes us feel unsafe. But that's because we're coming to it from a level of consciousness that is in survival mode. That is the instinct.
Yeah.
But if we just take a deep breath and shift our consciousness, and you know that, you know, you shift the awareness and come into another space, which is this here and now, all of a sudden it becomes different. You might still be feeling uncomfortable physically. You might still be feeling there's something going on in your heart. You might still be feeling all of those things. But on the other hand, there's this underlying stillness, this peaceful knowingness that this too shall pass. And that I don't have to run ahead of it. I don't have to try and run away from it and pretend it's not there or do something to fix it. Just be with it. People ask me so often this question. You know, for instance, if people have panic attacks or go into fear very easily, how do I stop identifying with this facet of myself? You just don't go into it. You stay with it. You stay with it. You just allow yourself to be with it. So you know you are that underlying stillness, that knowingness. You are that. And the fear is here too.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing to do.
I think you've just taken Ruth's question even deeper there.
Yeah.
Joanna's shared a few things with us. For me, over the years, it was not easy to look at my shadow, but with the process of integration with Tanya, I discovered that my body was safe. That's powerful. She goes on to say, finding my safe haven by holding hands with my essence, trusting that it was possible to dissolve moment by moment. I feel a deep gratitude for this whole process with Tanya. Today, I feel myself falling into the oneness of who I am. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joanna. It's been a blessing that we have lived really an interesting love affair in a sense. We're not lesbians or anything like that. It's not that kind of love affair. Okay. We could be, but we aren't. Sometimes people ask us,
Really?
this, do you have a relationship? And because it's very seldom does one see a friendship that is so vulnerable and so open and so allowing of the more that we are. It's seldom that people can be so honest, so there, as we would be in a relationship with a partner, with a love partner that whom we go to bed with at night. So actually, when we allow love to start being our one and only choice, that happens with all of the people we relate to. And so, for instance, when I'm working with someone, it's such a gift that, first of all, that person needs to really trust me, my presence, and I need to be allowed to hold that space, right? And but we develop such a love. I mean, then of course the idea is that we don't have to work together after a while, obviously, and that each one is really, really embracing their sovereignty and being the master that they are here to be. But then the relationship just stays, because that love, it can never be erased. I mean, so it's like each time you are creating friends, you're creating really powerful bonds of trust. Those cannot be broken, because they are created essence to essence, where there is no dissonance, where the mind is not allowed to come and tell us stories about that person. So it happens many times, for instance, that sometimes with some friends and with some people I work with, sometimes then a fear comes up, like, I'm not going to be with her because the mind just starts saying stuff like stories, like, I mean, oh, maybe it's not the right moment, oh, maybe it's not okay. But it's just because I easily bring up whatever is in the shadow. It's just that. It's just a natural thing. I don't need to do anything. Because I'm not afraid of it, because I faced my own shadow and I embraced it all. So anyone else's shadow feels, oh, maybe this is the moment I can step out and show myself a little bit. But then, of course, there's also that resistance, that self-protective resistance, saying, oh, no, maybe we shouldn't be together today. Oh, no, maybe it's not a good moment. Or, oh, no, just whatever story comes up. But it's just that fear of loving more, really and honestly. And nowadays, I've realized so much that there are no relationships in my life at the moment that are not kind and loving. There are zero, none of them. But why? Because that's where I am at with myself and for myself. And so I don't want to be anywhere else with anyone else. I mean, that's what I can be with anyone I am with, no matter what they think of themselves. Many times people think all sorts of self-jeopardizing things about themselves, that they're not good enough, that they're not wise enough, that they're not whatever. Those for me are totally irrelevant stories, because I can't see that. All I can see is this magnificent divine human here on earth right now. My God, what a blessing, you see. Yeah.
You're remarkable. I love listening to you. I'm kind of drifting off listening to you. I'm kind of drifting off listening to you. It almost feels like this is an intimate encounter between you and I.
It
I'm just,
is, isn't it?
yeah,
And
really,
even that, like, it doesn't matter who else is listening, because we can go into our intimacy and not be afraid of that.
yeah. I completely recognize that. The more you love yourself, the more loving the relationship comes up, and the more you see each other's shadow. So I don't think anyone has seen my shadow so much as my husband has.
Yeah.
And vice versa. We've really kind of let each other have it.
Yeah.
And laughed about it as well. Like we've been kind of lighthearted about it, and we've got into a habit of being able to recognize it now. So it gets much easier for us to clear.
Wow.
But it's always an exploration. The moment we start to feel anger or something, and I say, is that loving? And he'll ask that of me, and then we'll see. And you have to drop it. And sometimes it really feels like you can't drop it, like you're holding something, and it's so true. I'm not going to drop it. But
I'm not going to give in.
Yeah, but that is the moment to yield.
Yeah. There's the vulnerability. Totally. It's like,
Yeah.
what am I holding on to? What do I need this little anger for, or this little moment of separation for? Why do I need to prove that somehow I'm right and the other person is wrong? Or, it's just such a game. It's so unnecessary. And I find with Joanna that we've had, our relationship has developed over the past 10 years.
You guys are family, aren't you, really?
Yeah, we're exactly family. Yeah. Really, it's my extended family.
Like, you've been in your relationship as long as I have with my husband.
Yeah. And so, Joanna's kids are like mine, and mine are like hers, and we're there for each other all the time. I mean, it's just, there's no question about it. And there's whenever something shows up, whatever, it's just put on the table, and it's immediately taken care of, because nothing is allowed to stand in the way of that love that is greater than anything. And it just keeps on expanding and expanding and expanding. And I find that also in my love relationship so this is a love relationship. So they're all love relationships, you see. In my more intimate relationship with Pedro, it's exactly the same thing. We have come through so many different phases of realizing that it wasn't what we thought it was, and we just allow it to expand more and to expand more, and find out that the love just does not go away. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like, we could try to sort of, okay, now I'm done with this, and it just doesn't let go.
Yeah.
Love just says, no, I'm here. Now, what are you gonna do with me? Yes. Are you gonna try and shut me up, or are you gonna live it? That's it.
And do you find that when you have a big breakthrough, it sometimes follows that the darkness comes up again? Because one thing I've noticed in my relationship is, if we have a particularly deep and joyous lovemaking session, when you really open yourself in such a way that you're absolutely completely vulnerable, there's no space between you at all. The next day, that will be the day when something comes up to be recognized, like some dark, almost like it jiggles things around inside your psyche, and then it's boom, out it comes.
There you are. It happens not only in that situation, but also whenever we have the most wonderful, most beautiful experience even with ourselves, like even out in nature or whatever, and it's just that perfect day. And then it will happen that it seems like all of a sudden all hell has been set loose. So it doesn't happen to me anymore, but I know that is what keeps people many times from living the full extent of what they're capable of producing in terms of an abundantly fulfilling life. So it's that fear that's there in the background saying, oh, no, don't get it too good, because whenever it's too good, then something bad happens. Yeah. And it's not something bad. It's just something that needs to be addressed. And it's a blessing that it came, because then you can live even more of that fulfillment, even more of that abundance next time. And then maybe, it will just smack in your face again, even darker. Good. That means that it was still there. And just let it on. Bring it on. I mean, the thing is, live the best possible template that you can allow yourself. Just live it completely with all of the joy, not euphoria. Joy and euphoria are completely different things. Not to get carried away somewhere out there in la-di-da land. But with that complete, that joy that is so serene at the same time, because you're in such a love, a fulfillment. Allow that so much that all of the darkness is beaten out of the dark. Beaten out in the sense that, okay, you can't stay in the dark because there's all of this light here and you have to come into it because there's no other way.
Yeah.
So that's why it keeps on happening.
It's like a rejoining, like continuously welcoming in
gradually. You see, it just keeps on merging, and it merges when the love is so pure. It's just that absolute surrender, and it happens when you're with another, and there's just that absolute surrender, or with yourself when you're experiencing that perfect day, and you're in that absolute surrender and in that trust and that knowingness that all is well in all of creation, and then boom.
Yeah.
Okay, then the boom is the moment to. Okay, is not to run away from it and want what was happening yesterday, is to, okay, here's my cue. Let me stay now. Let me bring that beauty that I have in me to this part of me that thinks he or she is a monster.
Yes. That's perfect. I can see we've got a couple of questions come in from Ruth. I haven't looked at them yet, so it'd be really interesting to see if you've actually answered them ahead of time. So let's see. So Ruth is saying, "Hi, Louisa. Referring to your comment on your interactions with Carl and releasing anger or issues," and it goes on. Doesn't one need to be careful that both parties in a relationship are open to and willing to drop or release the issue to ensure you're not taken advantage of? It's an interesting one. I think a lot of it depends on whether you're both in the relationship together. Because I absolutely trust that there is nothing I can say to my husband that will not be recoverable from. We have this deal, like he said to me, and I absolutely 100% trust him. He says, "This is it." Like we've both looked at our previous relationships and realized that actually, if we'd had the tools we had back then, we could have made them work. We fell in love with different people who were all okay and really beautiful and magical and lovely people, and we didn't have the skills to make it work at that particular time. And I'm really grateful that that's how it's happened, because I've got my Carl and I love him to pieces. And I now have that learning that it doesn't matter what happens, whatever darkness comes out. And we've had some really dark times, really dark times. I trust that it doesn't matter how dark it gets. We will always come back to it. And I don't know, we we really like this book written by someone called Brad Blanton, and he wrote a book called Radical Honesty, and he says, be radically honest, but stick around to clear up the mess, and that's the key. And so he trains people through his book on how to be really honest, and and how to pick up the pieces and create the environment where you can pick up the pieces off after. Because he talks about like white lies and why we have them, and he just says that, and I'm paraphrasing here just in case he ever gets to hear this, and says, hang on, that's not what I said at all. But he had a psychology background and just realized that the problem from his perspective was that people have guilt, shame, blame, and anger, and they hide it. And it's those secrets that cause the division in the mind, the separation. It causes all the unhappiness. And he was saying, until we create freedom from that, it's going to be really difficult for us to find a balance. And so he listed a few exercises that he recommended couples did. And I was very upset when Cole suggested we did them, because I thought, if I answer these questions honestly, we might not stay in a relationship, because we had to come clean if we'd ever lied to each other. And we're in a new relationship. I was already pregnant with our first child together. It felt like really risky territory. And it was a really rigorous moment of truth. And we spent a whole weekend talking about truth and honesty. And it got eggy. It got very difficult. And from that experience, I absolutely trust that there's nothing I can say to him that we can't work through and work beyond. And it might be that one day we work through something together, and then we both decide that actually we're not in the right relationship. But it won't be that one of us is taking advantage of the other, because if we do feel like that, we actually say that to each other quite openly, and then we explore it. Because actually, the funny thing is, we nearly always complain to each other about the same thing. So I will say to him, you're being frosty with me. And I realize that actually I'm being frosty to him. Whatever our complaints are, when we really look at them, they are nearly always the same complaint. And it's that neither us are feeling supported in that moment. We're not feeling cherished or loved. And whenever we have those moments, we just realize that, that the way we communicated wasn't very loving. And so we just say, okay, let's start again.
Yeah.
We don't have the answers at all, but I couldn't have done that in another relationship, in my earlier relationships, and I've yet to have done it with a friend. I truly believe I could have that kind of relationship with Tanya, for sure.
Yes. Yes to that.
Yes.
What a blessing.
And I have that with my children. We're working on that. So I feel like we can be in true intimacy. And true intimacy isn't that easy sometimes.
Yeah.
It's messy. Yeah. But that's
I would like to add to Ruth's questioning that the whole question is really, Ruth, how far are you willing to let go of your hidden truths? How far are you willing to allow and surrender to your essence, to your inner guidance, so that your inner guidance can be guiding you in the relationship or wherever? Because any relationship, and just as Louisa said, is not about the other person. It's about you. Always you will be reflecting something if you're feeling it, as Louisa shared. And if you don't have the tools, you will then reject the other as not being appropriate or so on. But just as Louisa shared, the other relationships she had is not that those people were not fabulous in their own right. It's just that she didn't have the tools, the knowingness, and the work she hadn't done with herself yet that allowed for that to be so. So in any relationship, it's all about you. Where do you want to be? And it's not about if you're going to be taken advantage of, because I would ask, if you are surrendering to your wisdom, to your knowingness, which is God also, how can you be taken advantage of? I mean, how can the higher self, the expanded isness of you, which you are choosing to surrender to, be taken advantage of? How can it be? Being taken advantage of only happens in games of separation. It happens when we're pretending to be a victim or an abuser. That's when being taken advantage of happens. Now, either you're identifying as a victim or as an abuser in your relationship. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking this question. Sorry to be so blunt, but that's it.
I completely hear where you're coming from as well, Ruth, because in my previous relationship, I felt like I was taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Really, really felt it and felt very sore about it for a long time.
Yeah.
And in fact, I spent about 6 years moping after the end of it, and getting drunk and getting addicted to antidepressants and all sorts of things. In fact, I was a bit of a mess, actually. And it was like a continuous dark night of the soul. And I'm really grateful for it, because in the end, I just couldn't live with myself being like that in the end.
Yeah, there you are. So the victim became too painful.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and I've noticed that, like, when smoking got too much, or when drink got too much, or when something got too painful for me, it was only when it got too painful that I was able to change through it. And one thing I'd like to sort of add, in response to my relationship, is sometimes when we come to an impasse and no one can actually work out what's going on, I actually yield anyway. And I know that doesn't sound very like empowered or strong, but actually it feels very empowering to yield and just say, you know what, it's okay. Because in those moments, my trust that everything is going to be okay somehow brings a sense of peace. And then like in the giving, it's almost like a forgiveness, isn't it?
You let go of the ego. The ego's need to hang on to what you believe to be the truth. Or to be right, or whatever.
So I forgive myself for being in that situation, and sometimes I say, okay, yeah, you got it. And I'll
notice that you know how this past relationship you were talking about being taken advantage of just stemmed from the fact that you yourself were completely abusive of yourself. So that's why, of course, then you went into abusive behaviors, like drinking too much, going on to substances, etc., which were abusive of yourself, which were actually self-torture. And but if it weren't for that relationship mirroring the self-abuse, the being taken advantage of from the outside, you would never have been brought to your knees and lived that pattern out openly, and realized sooner or later, when it became too painful, that you know I'm done with being a victim, let's move on. And an abuser, obviously, because it's the same thing. I mean, you were abusing yourself.
I was definitely abusing myself. I just felt so so bad about myself that I wanted to punish myself. I felt like I wanted to smack myself so hard for having got it so wrong, and I was really harsh. So Ruth has just shared a couple more things. I'm not in a relationship and haven't been for quite a while. The situation I find myself in is that I was very open and trusting. However, after my earlier relationship, it changed due to circumstances. I let it happen, which is my responsibility. So what I'm hearing here, Ruth, is that you've had an experience of being very open and trusting, and you've also taken responsibility for where things have changed in your life that you acknowledge you may have let happen. And it's hard, isn't it, when we realize that we've been very open and trusting and it hasn't been the way we've expected. And it's a tough one.
I would like to add here, like, when I found out that I was being very open and trusting, I realized that I was doing that in those times where I had those imbalanced relationships, because I wanted to be the good girl in order to receive recognition, in order to be liked.
Yeah.
So I then always sort of was let's do it like that. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna allow that. I'm gonna allow that, over and over again, allowing stuff that wasn't okay, that was actually self-depreciating, and of course bringing me a lot of harm in my experience. But I, of course, had to take responsibility, because I was allowing that just because I used a pattern, which was I wanted to be the one in charge. So I paid all of the bills and all of those things, so that then I could sort of have some sense of power.
Yeah.
But it felt super hard because it was a huge burden. But then I realized the pattern was, okay, I want to be the dominating one who is in charge. And then on the other hand, I want to be nice and always say yes to stuff I should be saying no, just in order to receive what I feel is what I need. Yeah. So then what I noticed is, so until there was a pain with that. So I could be, okay, or yes, I'm taking responsibility and so on, but there can't be a hurt or a pain with having been taken. If I'm still talking about having been taken advantage of, I still haven't really taken responsibility. I realize, yes, I'm available to realize I was responsible for saying yes when I should have said no so many times. But if I'm still looking at it as being taken advantage of, I'm not realizing that it's just all about me, in that sense, that really embracing it with so much love that, it's okay to acknowledge that I was the manipulative one, that I was the one who wanted everything in the right place so that I could know how to find my bearings. And so then I put myself in those situations. I was the one. It doesn't matter what the other person is or isn't or is doing in their lives or whatever. It doesn't really matter. They move on and they go into whatever life they want to, and we go into whatever we want to. But as long as we hold on to a fear of eventually being taken advantage of in any time in our future relationships, whether they are friendships or more intimate, we are still really looking for something out there to serve us. But then when you really, really surrender and say, okay, I acknowledge that in being that victim, I've also been the abuser.
Yeah.
With complete serenity and compassion. It's not an accusation we make to ourselves. And we release the guilt. And I felt so much guilt for being so stupid. In that sense, that how could I allow this rubbish to happen in my life? How could I allow myself to be so taken advantage of? And then realizing that guilt was also really not serving any purpose. And then the anger, as you said before, these things are they're always creating separation. And so it's really about us allowing ourselves to surrender deeper and deeper and bring these parts, these children, because these are all children, from our initial times as a child, and the mechanisms that we used to seduce our parents and then to seduce everyone else into liking us and so on, whatever. Bringing these back home, and then we can be available. So we don't all need to be in relationships, obviously, but we do all have some sort of relationship with other people. And if those relationships can be without guard, they become so much more, so much healthier. But for that, we have to be able to give ourselves that love that we don't feel we were receiving before, because we can never really get it anywhere else but here. And then we can give it, and then we can receive it from everyone, from anyone. It doesn't really matter where they are at in their consciousness.
I think that's beautiful. And Ruth has said exactly right, Tanya. Same situation with me. So bang on again. I'm not surprised by that. I'm afraid I'm going to have to shoot off in a minute because my family's been out all day and they're coming back expecting a bit of food. So I need to put something on. I've been talking to all these lovely people from the Higher Self Expo, and it's very addictive, isn't it, Tanya?
Oh, there's so many amazing people in this world. It's just, when we allow ourselves to really open the door for that, and whoa, it's like, whoa, where were all these people hiding?
It's really life-changing. So on that bombshell, I'd just like to thank everybody that's tuned in to us tonight. In particular for really giving us some strong like questions that have kind of made it deep. I really love
Ruth,
that.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And Joanna as well. Thank you so much for your really open and vulnerable sharing. I love that. Thank you to everybody from all around the world that's joined us today, whether you're listening into us live or, listening again. We love you. Tanya, I love you. I adore you. I completely adore you.
I love you too so much. From the very first time I saw you, there was this thing.
Yeah, there was. I'm sure we'll be talking about our love affair in due course.
In 10 years' time, we will be here like saying, we have this ongoing love affair. And you've got a husband. And I've got also a relationship.
Yeah. Like, are we in foursome or something?
They're not jealous of that. I mean, they couldn't. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in our lives.
Yeah, exactly. So a quick goodbye from everyone. Thank you both. This is very interesting and thought-provoking. You're very welcome, Ruth. Krisha has said, wonderful conversation, Louisa and Tanya. Thank you. And Joanna,
thank you.
It's a lovely prayer symbol. So anyway, on that bombshell, beautiful people, we wish you lots and lots of love. I'll see you again for another session soon.
Thank you. And now dinner is going to be more delicious because it's going to have all of this love of all of these people together in it.
I really hope so. I'll let you know if I burn it. Let's see.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.